All right, guys, welcome back into another episode of the Show Baseball Podcast presented by Beyond the Monster. I am your host, Andrew Parker, and today's episode, I am dipping into the Colorado Rockies system. We got Konner Eaton on, and Konner was just named the Northwest Pitcher of the Week this week after an 11 strikeout performance on Friday for High-A there. And, he's working right now. His past two outings, he's got two back-to-back 11 strikeout outings. So, something's working right now, and I asked him about it because I wanted to know what's working, it's his first full season in professional baseball. So, I wanted to see, what he's been working through, obviously turning pro. He's coming up on a year since he was drafted by the Rockies. So we dive into that. We look into how he treated his first professional offseason, this past offseason, and into spring training as well. With some helpful advice from a cousin of his, Nate Eaton, who we know now very well in the Red Sox system. So we dive into all that and more. And obviously, we do shout out his alma mater there, George Mason. He was the first guy I've ever had on this podcast from George Mason. So I did ask him a little bit about the program there because I was curious, because the only time I've ever come across them is when they busted my bracket for college basketball in March. But before I do dive into the interview here, whether you're watching me on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is you're taking this in, please like, subscribe, making a big push right now on YouTube. All the subscribes, they mean so much to me, and they are completely free. But yeah, like I said, without further ado, let me shoot you on to the interview with Konner Eaton. All right, I am joined by Konner Eaton, and Konner is fresh off winning the Northwest Pitcher of the Week award there for his performance last Friday. And that's exactly where I want to begin. You're coming off of a 11 strikeout performance, and the time before that, you also had 11 Ks. So you're coming off two back-to-back performances like that. How are you feeling? Like, what's been working for you lately?
It's really just kind of like making adjustments day to day. Obviously this is my first full season, so I really get the chance to play around a lot of things and see how my body's moving. Obviously, we just hit the halfway mark, and this is the most innings I've ever thrown in my life, and one stretch. So it's really just being able to make sure I'm taking care of my body, making sure I'm working out, doing everything I need to do, mobility and stuff like that. And then obviously when you get out there in game day, it's 100% focused on attacking guys, and it's really just you versus the other hitter, and you're trying to strike him out at the end of the day. And I feel like that's what I've been doing a good job of, and just got to keep it going.
Yeah, you're like I said, you're coming off back-to-back performances of 11 strikeouts, and you have more strikeouts in your last two outings than you did your last four starts combined. Has it been something that, have you been tweaking pitches? Have you just been feeling good? I guess, like, what has changed, I guess, from the last two outings compared to like the last month before?
I honestly think it was just, it sounds like kind of stupid at the same time, but like whenever I get to two strikes, it's strike one, strike two. That's the main focus, is trying to get ahead in the first three pitches. It's a big difference between 2-1 and 1-2. So it's really just making sure I'm able to get those first two pitches over for a strike. And it's really just, I feel like the big difference has been just being able to finish guys off. I feel like over the last, the first half of the season, I didn't do the best job of that. Like, I was getting some weak ground balls and stuff like that. And I really kind of switched my mindset of being able to, instead of like 1-2 counts, like really just trying to stay in the zone and really just kind of like it. I never really had that thought of like, let me strike this guy out, if that makes sense. So over these last two starts, like whenever I got the two strikes, I'm like, all right, I'm going to strike this guy out. And I really feel like that's, as simple as it sounds, I feel like that's really been a big difference for me, is really just trying to strike guys out. Because if you pitch a contact in professional baseball, there's going to be a lot of contact hit, and some of that contact might not be the ones you want. So it's really just being able to try and get swings and misses. Obviously, my slider has been a huge role into that. So it's really just being able to get to two strikes and kind of finish guys off with my slider. And it's really just trying to make guys uncomfortable in the box, just trying to move feet, whatever I got to do to move feet. And it's really just trying to make them uncomfortable and make them guess pitches. And I feel like I've been doing a good job of that, and just got to keep it rolling.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a game plan now, and it seems like it's and I do want to get into this in a little bit. Obviously it's a much different game than it was when you were at George Mason and facing college hitters. you can't get away with as much as you probably could back when you were in college. And I am going to touch on that here in a second. But, obviously you're brand new to pro ball. It's your first full pro season. You're out west. How is the West Coast treating you? I know you're an East Coast guy, you're a Virginia guy, but how's the West Coast treating you?
Honestly, Spokane is it's a beautiful area. If I would be on the West Coast, this is probably where I'd want to be. It's a beautiful environment. It's really good baseball weather. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. It's like 70 degrees every night out there on Friday night, Thursday night, whenever you're pitching. Gets a little warm on the Sunday midweek, the Sunday 1:00 games, but no, I feel like the weather's been awesome out here. It's a beautiful environment. Fans are good in Spokane. It's an awesome league, and it's really nice, honestly, to have 5 teams in this league, because if you can dominate these hitters after them seeing you, 5, 6, 7 times, and you're really able to really learn these hitters, and that they can really get to learn you. So if you're able to go out there and just keep performing, then I feel like I'm in a good spot, and just got to keep going out there week by week and day by day.
I feel like that's, it has some pros and some cons, right? Where it's like you said, it's like you might be able to figure out some of these hitters, but some of these guys might have your number, and there's some pretty good hitters out in that league too. So you gotta be careful with that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so obviously, like we said, it's your first full pro season. I do want to ask you a little bit about, obviously coming into the season, and you got your feet wet a little bit last year, with a few outings there towards the end of the year in low A and high A. Do you think that helped you at all in, in just starting this year, just like already getting that start, and just being able to say like, okay, I did it last year, I know what I'm doing, like I'm going into the season with a little extra step?
Yeah, I think that was an awesome idea for me and great experience to kind of get my feet wet last year. Pitched 11 innings, wasn't too many innings. It was just really able to go out there and get some experience, get a feel for pro ball, and see how the days go day by day. So obviously, when I come into this year, I already have a feel of what's going to be going on, so I can kind of build a routine a little bit earlier, and kind of get into that day-to-day routine week by week. And obviously, I was a reliever at the end of last year. But it really hasn't been too much of a transition. It's just being able to kind of filter in the day by day. Last year as a reliever, and they kind of filter in that starter role I did in college, just kind of combining those a little bit and being able to stick to a routine. But it's been awesome so far.
Well, obviously you did get that start last year. You did, you appeared in some games. You got there in high A. Going into your first professional offseason, what was that like? What did you spend your time doing in your first pro offseason?
Obviously the first pro offseason is always like a little bit up in the air, obviously, because you don't know what you're really kind of, you haven't experienced spring training yet. It's really just trying to really I really tried to ask Nate a bunch of questions, because obviously he's been in the organization for a good amount of time now. And it was really just trying to make sure. I really wanted to put on a little bit of weight, probably 10, 11 pounds of muscle. And I did a pretty good job of that, because obviously I know when you come into a season, you're playing 142 games, you get in the dog days of August, you're probably going to drop a couple pounds. So it's really able to really bulk up a little bit in the off season, but making sure my body's still moving fast, I'm still mobile. It's really just kind of checking those boxes, making sure I'm moving fast, staying mobile, and have a good amount of strength. Obviously, because that is going to decline a little bit when you get into the dog days. So that was the main focus, and it's really just kind of going out there and making sure that I'm not throwing too much, but I'm not throwing too little going into spring training, because obviously spring training is something that's supposed to get ready for you for the season. So you really just have to make sure you're getting ready for spring training, and then let spring training get you ready for you for the season. I feel like I did a pretty good job of that. I have some good guys in the organization that bounce questions off of, good coordinators, good coaches, being able to give me ideas. It's really just asking questions to get you prepared for your first full season. I feel like I did a good job of that, and definitely going to make some adjustments going in the next off season. Have a couple of different main focuses, but so far, body feels good. All I can do is just keep hoping for that.
Yeah, you dropped something on me before we started recording, that you are cousins with Nate Eaton, who's been in professional baseball now for a few years. And, and you had just brought up, you kind of talked to him, picked his brain a little bit about like kind of what to expect over, your first professional offseason. What kind of advice did he give you? Like, what was probably the best piece you heard from him? Because obviously he's, a position player, a little different than you, but he was on the mound too at one point. I see
Mm-hmm.
he's also he's a position player who pitches as well, as we
Mm-hmm.
saw last week. But what kind of advice did he give you?
It wasn't Nathan. He never really gives me anything too particular. It's just making sure that like if we work out, we throw together and stuff like that during the off season. So he just tries to he's like a big brother to me. He tries to make sure I'm not doing too much or doing too little. We just kind of hold each other accountable at times, and it's really because at the same time, like I want to be able to figure myself out and see who I am at the end of the day. But it's always good to go back and ask questions, whether it's, like what should I be doing for like my lifts and stuff like that? Like, should I be following some kind of program, my throwing schedule and stuff like that? But yeah, he's just a great resource to go back and ask questions for.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's always nice when you have, other professional baseball players in your family, whether it's siblings, cousins, and even parents. You see it all around the league, and it's nice. But that leads me into you're obviously you mentioned it a little bit. You're going into you had your first professional spring training as well, which I think spring training is fascinating because I think it's the one time of the year that every single player in the organization is there in one site the entire season, and obviously everybody else goes their own ways after
Mm-hmm.
that. So how was it? What was your experience like?
Spring training was awesome. I feel like I was in a good spot at the start. I worked really hard during the off season, so it's really just making sure that you stay. The schedule's a little bit different. Obviously you're working out at 6:30 in the mornings, and spring training everything's really early in the morning. You get done around 1 o'clock, but then obviously throughout the later spring training days, you're getting done around 4. You start playing the night games, start getting you ready for those night games during the start of the season. So it's really just it wasn't anything too crazy. It was kind of as I expected because I know there's everybody's in there. It's just trying to make sure you get your lifts in, stuff like that. Just making sure you're staying within yourself to be able to make sure you're staying on top of your arm care, your mobility. Trying almost the same thing as it was in the off season. Obviously a little bit more intense, obviously because you got coordinators and coaches around watching you 24/7. So it's just making sure you got that chip on your shoulder and you're going about your business each day. And I feel like it's the best thing you can do during spring training. You want to catch the coordinators and all those coaches' eyes as best as you can, and you just got to make sure you do a good job of that.
Something is, kind of struck me too. I'm kind of asking about like, your first off season, your first spring training, and we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of you being drafted and joining here. And I think in a couple weeks, I think the MLB draft's kind of sneaking up on us right now. But
Mm-hmm.
we're coming up on a year from your official start to professional baseball. Has affiliate ball and professional ball been everything you kind of thought it would be, or has there been interesting challenges you weren't expecting? Like, I guess how is it what you expected it to be?
I really can't. I didn't really know. I didn't really have any expectations going into pro ball. It was just kind of something I wanted to experience with, and just kind of obviously these are some really good baseball players, and it's a lot different in college. The competition is so much better, but at the end of the day, when the competition's a lot better, I feel like that makes me a lot better, and it makes me to bring the best out of me. And that's what's awesome about pro ball is when you get all these these top prospects and stuff like that. You're like, I want to strike this guy out. Like you can say that you go out there and strike a couple first rounders out. You feel good about yourself, but you got to keep going at the end of the day. You got to. It's every fifth day you're on the mound, so you just got to make sure you prepare for that fifth day as best as you can, and just get ready for that next start, and doing your homework and stuff like that. Obviously, it's the starting in college and the starting in pro ball is so much different. I feel like I just kind of went out there and pitched when I was in college. When in pro ball, everything started 3 days before my start. It was out there, I'm out there in the dugout. Like the games are my homework. The games are out there. I have my journal. I have the scouting reports. I'm looking at hitters' swings, how they react to whether it's a fastball inside, outside, what's their swing like. Is it a 1-piece, a 2-piece, stuff like that. So it's really just making sure I'm doing my homework and I'm getting prepared and having a game plan for each week. And then the best thing you can do is just go out there and try to execute it the best you can. And how you execute that game plan is being able to make sure that, your bullpens have 100% focus during your bullpens, your catch play. And that's really been the biggest thing for me because, you're throwing every day in pro ball. And as a pitcher, you don't have that much to do throughout the day. You're sitting, you don't go on the bus till 2:30 or whatever it is to go to the field. And you're only throwing, you're throwing a bullpen and you got a couple pitches off the mound and stuff like that. So it's really just trying to make sure that, throughout those 4 or 5 things, whatever you do as a pitcher, PFPs, stuff like that, you have to make sure you have 100% focus of doing that. So when you get into the game, that focus is there, that game plan is there, and that execution becomes a little bit more easier throughout the game.
You just mentioned obviously you were reflecting on your college experience a little bit there, and that's actually I want to admit something here to you, I guess. I've done around 200 of these with minor league players around, all around professional baseball. And you are the very first one that I've ever had from George Mason University. And I don't know too much. I only know about them from basketball. I don't really know too much about them from the baseball aspect. So I'm going to let you show a little love here. What was it like playing there? And I guess for the program, obviously I know you're a Virginia guy, so I know it was close to home, but what was that experience like playing there?
So George Mason was actually my only offer coming out of high school. They were the only people who really gave me an opportunity. Sean Camp, he recruited me my junior year. Then obviously throughout my high school career, I went to my senior year, tore my UCL, had Tommy John surgery July 20th, 2021, going into my freshman year. Sat out my freshman year, didn't play a single game my freshman year. Came back sophomore year, had a good fall. Everything kind of started with me in the fall when we had Scout Day. Sometime in October. I was able to go out there as a sophomore and hit a 5. And that's kind of like where everything really started. It was fall of sophomore year. Went into the spring, had a couple scouts come and watch me. Was able to get up to a 6 or 7. I think I hit 8 maybe one time, but sophomore year I didn't know how to pitch. I was just up there kind of throwing as hard as I can. Didn't really have any all speeds. Didn't really have a game plan, if that makes sense. So then obviously going into junior year, obviously sophomore year summer, I went to the Cape, got some really good experience out there. Cape was probably one of the best summers of my life. Played with Orleans Firebirds, had an awesome experience out there. Obviously I was a starter my sophomore year, but in the Cape Cod, I was a reliever. Was more like a leverage guy type situation. Went to my junior year, had a bunch of meetings throughout the fall, and then going into my spring season, had a little bit of understanding of who I was as a pitcher, but the ceiling still was way above me. I wasn't really good in college. I'll admit it. I knew my potential was there. And I just knew I had to grow, and I knew it was going to take time. Everybody's a little bit different on the timing aspect. So really just being able to get a 6th round out of George Mason University is pretty awesome. My Cape Cod summer, obviously those are a lot of guys, SEC, ACC type guys out there. So being able to represent George Mason was pretty awesome. But it was a great experience. I don't know what I'll do without George Mason. They were the only people to give me an opportunity and give me a chance to go, pursue my dreams, and that was pretty awesome. I didn't want to. Obviously, I knew I had the option to go in the portal and go get some experience at SEC or ACC, but obviously I was a 6th rounder, and 6th rounders get lost in the ACC and SEC. So a 6th rounder at George Mason, being the highest draft pick pitcher out of George Mason, that's how you get your name out there, and that was pretty awesome for me. And I have 100% loyalty to that program, and I want to see them succeed the best they can, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to hang the hat on, man. I mean, obviously you're like you just said, it's like you kind of like, you're not just playing for your name, you're playing for them as well now as you go about your professional career. I got a couple questions left for you, and I will let you slide here. I see you relocating over there, but it's
no, I had to go. Grab my backpack.
Oh, you're all good. So obviously when I do these things, I like to I like to creep on you a little bit, and I try to see what else you like to do off the field here. And when I peeped your Instagram, it
Hmm.
looked like you were a guy who was all about baseball, and you like hunting a little bit too. I did see, but obviously you can't really
Yeah.
probably do that during the season too much. So let's just say it's a Monday off day, like it is when we're recording this. I was a little surprised you weren't on the golf course right now, to be honest. But what are you doing on your Monday off day usually?
Usually at the golf course, but we're in Tri-City right now. We just got on the road and we're on the road again for the first 3 games. But usually I do like to play golf. I played all through high school. It's something to get out there. I feel like golf is probably one of the best things you can do as a professional baseball player, to go out there and actually like reset. The last thing I want to do on an off day is kind of like just sit around the house and think about what I have on Tuesday. And, you kind of, your mind has to reset throughout the weeks, because, you're playing baseball every single day. And it's really being able to go out there and kind of reset. And I feel like golf is a great option. And also, we have the Spokane River right behind our townhouse. So I go out there. I have a couple fishing poles to go out there, trout fish for a little bit. And I feel like that's something awesome to be able to reset. That's something I can do if, I have an hour of free time or so. Just walk on right behind my house, go trout fishing for a little bit. But yeah, I'm an outdoors person. I love anything hunting, fishing, golf. The last thing I want to do is sit around the house. I'm not that type of person, but I feel like there's just some great things I recommend for a lot of people throughout the season. Because I feel like I've been doing a good job of being able to reset myself on Mondays, but it's been good so far.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're not a video game guy, is what I'm gathering
I
from this.
I do play video games. I do play them a lot during the off season, and I do play them sometimes. If like obviously like 7 o'clock starts. If you have a 7 o'clock start, and it's kind of hard to go to sleep right when you get back home at 11 o'clock. So if I stay up for like a couple hours or so, I'll play video games for a little bit, but nothing crazy.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that is cool. By the way, I feel like you're in a good spot. If you like outdoors, you like fishing. I feel like you got put in a good spot there in Spokane. So I feel like
Oh yeah,
not
absolutely.
bad. All right, one question left, and I will let you go here.
Yep.
Obviously, you were just named Pitcher of the Week this week. I know that probably wasn't a goal of yours coming into the week, but it happened, and you got recognized by Minor League Baseball, which is very cool. But now that we're into the second half of the Minor League Baseball season, do you have any goals that you want to hit by the end of the season? Like whether they're statistical, personal, like do you have anything do you want to accomplish by the end of the season?
Really, I really just want to stay within myself. I really want to stay present with myself. I try to read a devotional each day, and most of those devotional pages are really just trying to be able to stay present with God, and stay where my feet are. I try not to look too far ahead of myself, and a lot of things in professional baseball are out of your control. And, the main takeaway from this season and going into next season is how much better did I get as a person, as a character, as a teammate. How much better did I get as a pitcher? And I'm only halfway through the season, and I can not even tell you how much better I feel like I've gotten since the start. So I feel like I've already kind of accomplished some goals for myself, and being able to stay within myself throughout the day. And obviously this is my first full season. I feel like we're only halfway through, and this is the longest I've ever pitched. But I feel like we just got started. So I feel like I'm really excited for the second half. I'm excited for this, what the team, holds for the second half, and see if we can go out there and get a ring. Obviously, that would be pretty cool. We were 2024 Northwest League champions last year, and see if we can do it again. But, it's really just trying to, within myself, see how much better I got as a person, how much did I grow throughout the year. And, baseball is a beautiful thing to really help you grow as a person and mature a little bit. And I feel like I've done a good job of that so far.
All right, Connor. Well, thank you so much for doing this, obviously, and wishing you nothing but the best as we head towards the end of the season here. And hopefully seeing you maybe potentially, if the cards are right, up in the East Coast again there if you get the double A. But
yeah, that would be
obviously,
awesome.
yeah, and thank you so much, though, for doing this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Andrew. Anytime.